So it seems like 9mm carbines like the Henry Homesteader are all the rage these days. But how do they actually stack up in terms of velocity to a standard pistol? Are you actually getting any more oomph out of the little 9mm round from a carbine as opposed to a pistol? Well, today we're going to find out. I'm going to shoot 7 different kinds of ammo from both the Henry Homesteader and the GLOCK 19X and measure the velocity at 7 feet. And after that, I'm going to go put the chronograph way down at 25 yards and fire the Homesteader again with the same 7 types of ammo. And when it's all said and done, I'll put all the numbers into a fancy little chart. We can look at it and determine just how much more power you're getting out of a carbine versus a pistol. And here are the 7 loads I'll be shooting. I'll be shooting these in this order out of both the Henry Homesteader and the GLOCK 19X. Over here on the left, we have Underwood Ammo's 9mm Luger Plus P Plus 115 grain jacketed hollow point. We've got Underwood's 9mm Luger Plus P 147 grain hard cast. We've got Remington's subsonic load 147 grain. We've got classic Winchester white box. We've got Winchester 9mm NATO 124 grain. And then we have Winchester Defense USA Ready 124 grain Plus P. And finally, bringing up the rear, Hornady Critical Defense Light. All right, let's get set up and get to shooting. All right, so I just fired the Glock from 7 feet to capture those velocities. I went ahead and skipped firing the Homesteader from 7 feet because I already had that data from my previous ballistics gel tests. So I'm just gonna add that data into the chart that we'll look at here in a second after we fire the Homesteader from 25 yards. All right, I've got the data all charted up here. At any point, feel free to pause the video, zoom in, turn your phone sideways to make the screen bigger if you're watching it on a phone, and really take all this in or look at whatever you want to. I'm just going to hit on the averages and then some highlights. So let's go ahead and look at the bottom row where it says averages. This is just averaging together all the different loads. On average, across all 7 loads, at a distance of 7 feet, we got an extra 161 feet per second when firing from a carbine versus a pistol. And the different loads that I actually wound up using are pretty dynamic. We've got some really different stuff in here, some Plus P Plus, some training stuff, some really light stuff, subsonic. So I think this is actually a pretty good representation of what you would see if you tested even more 9mm loads. And that works out to, on average, an extra 14% velocity when firing from a carbine versus a pistol at 7 feet. And then I wanted to measure velocity at 25 yards when firing from a carbine to see, are we still getting more power, more velocity out of a carbine from 25 yards as opposed to a pistol at 7 feet? And it turns out, yes, we still are running more powerful than a pistol even when backed up to 25 yards. On average, across all 7 loads, we were still 93 feet per second faster. The bullet was going that much faster when fired from a carbine at 25 yards as opposed to a pistol at 7 feet. So that's pretty cool. And another way of looking at that is saying that at some point past 25 yards, and I don't know exactly what it would be, it might be 35 yards, it might be closer to 50 yards, essentially firing a 9mm bullet, any kind of load, out of a carbine is going to be the same as firing it from a pistol at 7 feet. So at more pistol typical ranges, and I don't know exactly what that range is. It's somewhere, I'm going to guess, between 25 yards and 50 yards, where the carbine's power essentially is negated and the impact energy would be the same as if fired from a pistol at a closer range, more pistol typical range. So yet another way of saying that is, don't think you're going to go hunting with a 9mm carbine, go like deer hunting, hog hunting or something, and be shooting at, say deer, hogs or whatever at 50 plus yards and think you're getting any more power than if you're just shooting the thing out of a pistol from typical pistol ranges. That's basically what I'm trying to say, is it's at a certain point, you've got very, very diminishing returns. And let's go ahead and hit on a few of the loads. The first one I'll go over is this top row, the Underwood Ammo 115 grain plus P plus. So this is the one that we saw the greatest velocity bump when going out of the carbine versus the pistol. We got an extra 214 feet per second when measured at 7 feet. And that makes a lot of sense. Your plus P and plus P plus loads have more gunpowder. They got more pressure to them. You're gonna get more juice from the squeeze when using that longer barrel with a cartridge that is loaded hotter. It just makes sense. And then I'll talk about the one right under that, the Underwood Ammo 147 grain hard cast load. We did see quite a good bump in that one as well, an extra 172 feet per second. And if you haven't seen my ballistics gel tests on 9mm ammo out of a carbine, go check those out. This load in particular, the 147 grain hard cast Underwood, this stuff penetrated absolutely insane. If there's one round that you might want to carry in a 9mm carbine or even a pistol, potentially for hunting or defense or something like that from game, from pigs or even black bears or something, this would be the load that you would want to carry. This stuff just penetrates like crazy. And even down at 25 yards, this load is still trucking along 107 feet per second faster than if you fired it out of a pistol at 7 feet. So this one's got some juice to it. And then the next row, this is an interesting load, the Remington Subsonic 147 grain. Now you have to keep in mind, this load is already subsonic. It's already optimized for lower velocities. It's meant for lower velocities. So you're probably not going to get as much, juice for the squeeze out of it when using a longer barrel. And that's exactly what happened. At 7 feet, we only got 81 feet per second more when firing it out of a carbine versus a pistol. And then something to note with this particular load, if you look out to the right, I have a little asterisk that says caveat. And that's because if we go over and look in the chart, we actually got a higher velocity with this bullet when measured at 25 yards versus 7 feet when firing from the Henry Homesteader. And I can only chalk that up to deviation in the load itself. Had I used a different bullet out of the pack, we may have seen that flipped, but that's the only time that happened across all 7 loads. And due to the amount of firing and stuff that I was doing, and I'd filmed a bunch of other videos that day, I wasn't going to do like 3-shot averages for every single one of these loads. It was going to be one and done, and this is just how it worked out. And then real quick, we'll just hit on the rest of them. We got 2 Winchester training loads, your 115 and 124 grain full metal jacket stuff. They were trucking right along. We saw an almost identical velocity increase at 7 foot when fired from the carbine versus pistol, 155 and 157 feet per second extra respectively. And then those were still trucking along out there at 25 yards, going quite a bit faster than the pistol at 7 feet. So those have some juice to them. And then we've got another plus P load, that Winchester Defense USA Ready stuff. That was extremely similar to the other 2 Winchester training loads, 156 extra feet per second at 7 feet out of the carbine versus the pistol, and it's still going faster even at 25 yards. And then we have the last load, the Hornady Critical Defense Light 100 grain. This one was interesting. It's a light load, but it doesn't seem like it's light on, gunpowder. It's got some boom to it. It's just a light bullet. We saw quite a good velocity increase, 189 extra feet per second when fired out of the carbine versus the pistol at 7 feet. And then we're still trucking along 109 feet per second faster from 25 yards when fired from the carbine versus the pistol at 7 feet. So all in all, the moral of the story, looking at all this data, is that you definitely get a performance gain when firing 9mm ammo out of a carbine versus a pistol. The extra barrel length does tend to wring out some more velocity, except when you're talking about subsonic stuff. You're not going to gain a whole lot more out of that. And the more boom you got out of the ammo, the more boom you're going to get out of a longer barrel. Plus P plus is where it's at if you want maximum velocity. It can take advantage of that extra burn time in that longer barrel, and you can maximize the numbers you're going to see. And here, wrapping up, I just want to reiterate that based on this data and based on really common sense, taking 9mm and shooting it from a carbine with a 16-inch barrel doesn't turn it into some other kind of monster. It really doesn't. It does give it a velocity boost, but it's not gigantic. It doesn't turn it into a 357 Magnum or anything like that. Not even close. So don't think that you're going to take a 9mm carbine and then just go deer hunting with it. Could you? Sure, you could. But it's probably not the best idea. 9mm bullets are not very aerodynamic. None of them are. They slow down really fast. And at a certain point, you're going to see those diminishing returns. And really the advantage of firing 9mm out of a carbine versus a pistol isn't a power thing. It's not an energy thing. It's not even a velocity thing. It's a precision and controllability thing. Shooting 9 out of a carbine, you're going to be able to shoot more accurately at all distances as opposed to using a pistol. And that's really where a carbine shines. And if you'd like to see more fun videos like this, check out my website, masonleather.com. I've been hand making leather gear for hunters for over a decade, and I would love to make you something no matter what you're hunting with. The link will be in the pinned comment.